right, y'all. Let's let everybody filter in. My apologies for the ups and downs. We're gonna get it together. I'm gonna give everybody just 1 minute to come on in here. Introduce Nar, and we're gonna get it rolling. Again, my apologies for the confusion. All right. We are recording, so I'm gonna give the ladies just a few minutes. This is for everybody to see this link. This was confusing. I don't know why Facebook was doing me like this today. All right. I hope everybody saw the message. I think everybody's starting to see it now. Okay. We're getting some people coming in. Beautiful. I don't want anybody to miss it that wanted to be here. And I'm going to post it in the Facebook group real quick. Hey, girl.
Hey everybody.
How you doing?
I'm well, thank you. I'm having some audio issues of my own, so I apologize in advance.
Girl, it's that type of day. I don't know what's going on. Hey, is that Brittany? All right, y'all, let's keep it moving. So, I want to introduce the beautiful and lovely Nar. She is a traditional midwife, doula, montrese, all the things, maternal health consult, but she also has a personal experience with recovering after a cesarean and going on to have successful VBAC births. This has come up for multiple mothers as a pain point that we're all navigating if we've been through that experience. So I wanted to bring somebody in who could speak from their heart, who knows exactly what to do, the steps that it takes. And when she finishes, if I have time, I'll add a little bit on just from the spiritual and divine feminine side on things that we can do to heal and repair and connect and empower. So now I'm going to give you the floor. I need to take it away.
Greetings. Can everybody hear me good? Yasmin, you can hear me? Okay, because I had myself on mute. I was like, I hope that I come through, y'all, because the technical difficulties today was real. Even my computer wanted to be doing the most at the last second. So I appreciate y'all for hanging in there with us because y'all know we are just prisoners now to our devices. That's that's where we've gotten. But yes, so on today, we're going to be discussing the emotional and mental recovery after cesarean. And then, once you've gotten through that recovery, gratefully preparing yourself for your vaginal birth after the cesarean. So I want to start with saying like one of the biggest things right after you go through your cesarean is do not be hard on yourself. Oh my Lord. Some mommies, they go through a period of being really hard on themselves about having had the cesarean because the recovery process it's not easy. It is. I want people to remember that it's major abdominal surgery. We use our abdominal muscles for every movement that we make daily. And when you have that part of the body that has gone through some construction, you need to take some time to heal. Take that time. And for every mommy now, the first thing I'm talking about when I get any new clients is now, who's your postpartum team? You have to have that in place. It's so important after a cesarean. And I'm definitely going to get into it, but I will go for days, y'all. I got to make sure I keep myself on topic. um, but yes, so do not be hard on yourselves. Oh my gosh, and make sure you're taking care of yourself. So going into that emotional and mental preparation, once you've gotten, you at this point we're past the cesarean part. You're wanting to get ready to go into this vaginal birth. Um, Review your cesarean birth objectively, at all the pieces that happened in it. Once you do that and letting that go, you can move forward in the preparation of this vaginal birth. Because if you're not settled within yourself and what happened before, you're going to bring all of that into your current birth. I've seen it happen. And mommies kind of go through kind of the same, unpleasant experience. So you want to work through, all the reasons why you even had a cesarean in the first place. And just looking at those things and then letting them go so that once you get into this new space with a new baby, a new birth experience, a new pregnancy, because every pregnancy is different, ain't not one gonna be the same. Now, even in my birth stories, and I'm gonna share that with y'all too, none of the experiences are the same. New pregnancy, new mommy, new breastfeeding journey, all of that. um, but yeah, so look at that cesarean birth very objectively. Go through the different, points. Who was your provider? Who was your support people? Was you really taking care of yourself? Did you allow for your body to really go through this process? Because the labor is that's why it's called labor, y'all. It's work. You're gonna have to put some work in when you're going through your labor process. And if you're allowing for a whole lot of external uh, things to be more present than what's happening to you, a lot of times we end up, in that cesarean space, or a whole lot of intervention space. Um, so yeah, make sure that y'all are looking at that. So you, like I said, so you're not bringing it into that next birth experience, because what happened for you to go through that cesarean, I'm here to tell you it won't happen in the next one. And I'll just share right now briefly my birth story. So with my first one, I was 25, 33 weeks pregnant. I get sent in pretty much because I was diagnosed with preeclampsia. So I'm pretty much sent into the hospital, just going to a regular checkup. They were like, your blood pressure is high. So they just put me in. I didn't really get no say so on that. They were just like, nope, we're going to send you over, and that was that. Um, but yeah, I ended up having a cesarean at 33 weeks. And at first they wanted to induce, but I knew that wasn't going to happen because I was only 33 weeks. Um, but yeah, so after that experience, after, my providers not being very supportive, especially not talking to me like I'm a person, um, having students always coming in and out of the room, and I mean, it was just a very impersonal experience, one that I didn't feel like I was even involved in. Um, so yeah, I ended up getting a cesarean birth for my first birth. And I didn't know anything about anything. I didn't know anything about childbirth, how we supposed to have our babies. I just know that you end up being pregnant, a life grows inside of you, and then one day this is gonna come out your vagina. That's pretty much where I was in in knowing about childbirth. I didn't know that you had to take care of yourself. You had to watch what you're thinking, especially in the early days, because a lot spiritually goes on with the baby when they're in there that early. They're being shaped and fashioned. So you really want to be mindful of the things that you're thinking about, as you go through your pregnancy too. But back to this. just like I said, when you go through all those reasons, and finding, um, yeah, the things that led to the first one, your second experience is going to be so much more different. Because after that time, after I came out of the fog of healing from a cesarean and having to be, I was down for 2 months, I think, after my cesarean. So yeah, it took some healing, and my incision ended up coming open at one point because I was doing too much. I needed to sit my behind down somewhere. And I appreciate my mama so much. Shout out to my mama, because when I had my cesarean, she was there for me. She ended up staying with us, I think, for a whole week or two after that. So, I also had that support in dealing with my cesarean afterwards. And I'm telling y'all, it's so important for y'all to have that postpartum support, because you're going to be healing from major abdominal surgery. Um, but yeah, so taking all of that into account, and then going into my second birth, I found a VBAC friendly provider. He said that he supported women in VBAC. And I always tell people, from the time I went into his office, I was like, I'm having this baby vaginally. I've gone through and I've done the research. If y'all see on the handout, y'all see different organizations to go to for your research. ACOG, the what is it? The American Academy of Pediatrics. Is so much information out here, y'all, on how to go about planning your vaginal birth after you've had a cesarean. So I did that. I hit the ground running after a year. Yeah, when my son was 1, and I started attending birth conferences. I started talking to mommies about their birth experiences, and it's so crazy how people, like, we all know, like, some people's birth experiences, it's like, dang, you went through all that. You went through all that, but look, um, but yeah, so gaining all of those experiences, I told him, all my, talking to people, getting the knowledge, I was like, I'm gonna have this baby vaginally. And you ain't, and nobody's gonna do anything to stop me from having this baby vaginally. So it was a trip every time I went to his office, because he always knew what to expect from me every time that I went. Because I'm like, that's why I sought you out. I sought you out to be able to have this vaginal birth. Um, so yeah, once you gained your knowledge, understanding your rights, especially because you have every right to attempt a vaginal birth after cesarean. And on the handout, um, I have the VBAC facts. On VBAC, there is about an 80% success rate for most mommies who've had one. If you're a mommy who has had just one cesarean, you are already at an 80% success rate for having a vaginal birth. I mean, to me, that's a lot.
You
I
said
took that
8,
now.
like the single,
80,
like
80%,
oh, I'm like 8. Oh my god.
80, y'all, 80%. You already at 80%. That's high. That means the other 20, they had whatever they had going on where it resulted them in another cesarean. But you already at 80% to be able to have your vaginal birth. Uterine ruptures only happen in about 0.2% of women. 0.2. That's barely what, 10 to 20,000 women in a birthing year. How many people are birthed a year? Millions of people birthed in a year. um, and then with repeat cesareans, they more than triple your risk of mommy's passing. So for me, hearing that, it tripled my risk. I wasn't gonna go through having another cesarean. And I've actually worked with mommies who've had 1, 2, and 3 cesareans, and we've successfully had vaginal births. Um, after those cesareans. So I would much rather, allow for my body to go through this process, which is it instinctually knows what to do. You know, do that, mommies. 90% of women with a past cesarean are candidates for VBAC. So it went up again from a vaginal successful rate from 80% to 90% of women with a past cesarean are candidates for VBAC. And I just got this off of the VBAC facts site. I didn't even realize that. I didn't even realize that. But yeah, so most women, if you've had one, don't believe the hype. I did not after, and I didn't even really have no provider come to me like they do now and say to mommies, well, if you've had one cesarean, you have to have it again. No, sir. They shouldn't even be telling mommies that because it's really not true. It should go by case basis. And, seeing what all led to that mother's cesarean in the first place. Because most women, like if you were induced or, you were induced and then had epidural, or, you may have had just some difficulties with baby's heart tones, or, whatever the case was that caused mommy to have the cesarean, she can most definitely positively attempt to have a, vaginal birth also. So, and I never, that was one thing that definitely stuck with me after my cesarean. I just wasn't going through it again. The, just the healing process in itself from the cesarean. I did not want to have to go through surgery again. It just wasn't something, yeah, that I wanted to experience again. Knowing I didn't even want it the first time. So, you have to, like I said, come to terms with what happened with the first birth. And for your second birth, do that thing. Don't let nobody tell you that you can't, and if you're unsure, gain some more knowledge. Talk to some more mamas, out here. Talk to even supportive providers. If that provider is not supportive of a VBAC, then you need to talk to somebody else. Keep talking to whoever you need to talk to that will then settle it in your spirit that yes, a vaginal birth is what I need to have, because that's the way that we're supposed to have our babies, truly. That no other species on this planet need help other than us. And, it's because we could talk and tell each other off and things. I'm crazy, y'all. But yeah, so once you gain that knowledge and understand your rights, that's one thing that I'm very big on when I do my prenatal education with my mommies. We talk about our birthing rights. And the fact that you have a voice, you are the voice within your pregnancy journey, and everyone else is, there in support of you. You pick everybody to be there in support of you because you're the leader in this. And each of us should play our part. Your provider should play their part. If you have a, OBGYN, remember they're obstetrics, they are surgery, they are going to be very medically minded for the most part. It's some out there that, they understand the physiology of birth, and they won't be, so opinionated about it. You have your midwives. Choose whatever midwife that you want for your birthing experience. You want to be in the hospital, you have your certified nurse midwives. If you want to be at home, you have your home birth traditional midwives, direct entry midwives, certified professional midwife, however you want to call for the home birth, because there's different avenues for the home birth. But all of those midwives support in home birth. Certified nurse midwives have been known to support in home births, but keep in mind that they are trained for the hospital. That's where they should be, and we should all be working together. I've worked with certified nurse midwives before and have done collaborative care. And that's what everybody should be doing around you. We should be collaborating our care together surrounding you, no matter what provider you choose. But I do encourage for mommies to have a medical provider, even if you're choosing a home birth, because things may take a turn. We pray for the best. I am one who prays for the best all the time. But sometimes our bodies does not do what it wants, what we want it to do. So keeping that in mind too. Um, and not tearing yourself down about that either. Because sometimes I truly believe that sometimes our bodies need more time, but then it's like, how much more time do we give? And then, the medical provider is there and they're like, well, I really don't want to give you more time, but some of us need more time. And yeah, then there are times when a cesarean or interventions or what have you is necessary. That's what it's there for. So we got to keep that in mind too, that is what it's there for. So going into, let me see, do I want to, yeah, going in, because I want to make sure that I share all my birth stories within all of this. So that first birth was a cesarean birth. And after that birth, I promise y'all, make sure you just review objectively, and then let go of, whatever it was that may have caused you some dis-ease within that time frame, other than the healing from the surgery. But yeah, once you've gotten through that, and leading up into my second pregnancy and birth, which was my first VBAC, and I allowed my body to labor. I just allowed for it to labor and do what it was supposed to do. I mean, in that birth, I also ate better, because in my first birth, I was working in my first birth too. So I had a lot of stress on me then too. So I did a lot of things differently in my second pregnancy that I didn't do in my first pregnancy, to take account of also. But yeah, so once I got to that birthing space though, I just allowed for my body to do what it was, was supposed is it does. um and I had her vaginally, and I was like, yeah, I did that. I was like, and I wanted to look at the doctor and be like, I told you so, but I didn't really look at him like that. I just kind of, shrugged it off and just gave my own self a high five. But everybody in the room was excited because I was a VBAC. So, it was really nice. It was definitely a complete turnaround from my first birth story. And then going into my third birth, which was my first home birth, with a home birth midwife and doula. She was a traditional midwife. And I would say in that birth, I surrendered all, as the song say. Yeah, I let go of any and everything for that. And my labor was only 5 hours. 5-hour labor. Oh, with my first VBAC, I was a 20-hour labor. Lord, she really took me through it. It was a 20-hour labor with the epidural and episiotomy. I remember those things. Yeah, so, and I agreed to those, but yeah. But yeah, my third birth, I just let it all go. Any expectations, my performance, letting go, definitely let go of other people's stories, because I was a little worried that I would have to go into having a cesarean. I mean, that thought is always in your mind, right? Whether or not this one will be another cesarean. But you even got to let that go. Don't even think that that's what it's going to be. That the thought will come. I promise, it probably will come. But shoot that thing on out there as soon as it comes, because it does not exist. The only thing that exists is you going through your vaginal birth and being successful in that. Cause I just let it all go for that third birth. And he was born in 5 hours in the water in the tub. Um, and I'm very thankful for my home birth and midwife and doula team that I had, because they were the ones that really pushed me into doula and midwifery work. So I'm certified in pretty much both, y'all, doula and midwifery work. Um, but yeah, for that third birth, I just let it all go. And I got what I had desired, to just be able to have the baby at home. Because I actually played around with the idea at first in my third birth, because I knew I wanted it to be, definitely more organic of a setting, because I did the VBAC at the hospital. Um, but yeah, going into that third birth, I just wanted it to, be more, even more natural, more organic, and more fulfilling. And it was so fulfilling, to birth him at home and in the water. um, and then one thing to consider too, it just came to me, I don't know why, because of the water. But with your postpartum healing from your cesarean, make sure you're massaging where your cesarean area. That can help um, cut down on the scar tissue using certain oils. I create an oil for my cesarean mommies that I have had, and for myself. I used it on myself. Um, because that scar tissue, I know some of us, we kind of worry about the scar tissue because they have to cut through several layers. I'm talking about several layers, to be able to get to your uterus. And they have to sew, all of that back up. So make sure you're massaging that area with some gentle oils. You can contact me for my oil, just to put that out there. But yeah, make sure you're doing that and building up your blood levels. I learned that too through my processes. I'm anemic, so my blood levels are a little, lower than average, I guess, but to me they're average. But knowing these type of things will help prevent in any, like clotting, bleeding issues. I did have that issue after my births, I guess, because I'm anemic, because my levels, they do stay a little lower than average. So that's something that I have to, work on for me. And a lot of Black women have to work on, because our blood doesn't clot the way that it should. And a lot of us suffer from, heavy bleeding. So getting those iron-rich foods, vitamin K, the fish oils, all of that will help, with that. In my case, I still had to go, which is crazy. Both times after my home births, I ended up going in for a postpartum hemorrhage. It always happens like about 30 minutes after my births, and then I just start bleeding. Yeah, and it's like a faucet is on. Y'all don't want to experience that, but that just lets you know that if you experience that, you need to go to the hospital right away. Because I don't think in my case just putting my feet up would have helped or anything like that, or getting warm packs, like doing it the traditional way. I don't know if the tinctures would have worked fast enough, because there are a lot of things that you can do with a slow bleed. If there's slow bleeding, mine was like the faucet was just turned on, y'all. So yeah, we're not going to play around with that. But yeah, that massaging, doing that massage can, help in making sure that you're getting the right nutritional intake to be able to build those good blood infusions. Um, but going into, let me see, where did I end at? The third birth. Yeah, the third birth, I let it all go, y'all. And that's where you have to be. You have to trust completely in the process, knowing that your body will do what it can instinctually do at the end of the day. My fourth birth was another home birth, and I decided to free birth for that birth. Only because I had gotten to a place where I understood what is going to happen. I was in a complete state of understanding or overstanding, of the birth process. And each person has to come to that, on their own. And a lot of women do who, decide to free birth. And that birth was just as amazing, if not more, because I do tell people, like, I went into the cosmos with that girl, because she took me through a 10-hour labor too. So yeah, it was magical. I can say my fourth birth, and my daughter's name, she is the magical creative powers. That's that's her name, or the fiery magical creative powers, because she also Aries. Yeah. So once you've come to terms, with your cesarean birth, the things that happened, and gaining knowledge, knowing that that does not have to be, your next story. You can redefine and rewrite each story that or each pregnancy story, pregnancy and birthing story that you have. Um, just do it at the end of the day. Just go with everything. Of course, there's all the other things, make sure you eat right. I ain't going through all of that. You know, from the spiritual aspect, you have to be okay. You have to be okay with choosing that that's how you want to birth, or choosing how you want to birth. You have to be okay with it. And what else did I have in here? Because it was something I wanted to remind myself of. Yeah, so one of the key things I would say too in going to your VBAC, going into the journey of your VBAC, make sure to have that supportive provider, whichever one you choose, because that's going to be the key. Whether you decide to free birth, whether you decide to home birth, whether you decide to birth center birth, whether you decide to hospital birth, who you choose to be there with you is highly, and be mindful of these the groups, the practitioner groups, because you never know who you're gonna get when you have the practitioner group. You might not even get the one that you like, so be very mindful of who you're choosing to be that medical representative for you. And definitely hire, get a doula. I mean, and don't expect for your doula to sprinkle magic dust, on things. And like, your doula is there to help support you. She is your advocacy totem, is what I like to call a doula now. She is there to be your reminder. Technically, they're not supposed to speak for you. We don't speak for the clients. We really want you to advocate for yourself. Again, we are your advocacy totem in the room to let you know you better remember that you got options. Remember that you got options. Remember that you are the voice. Just remember that. But definitely, hire a doula who will support you too. And then for your supportive care team that will be there during postpartum, make sure all are on board with, your future plans for your vaginal birth. If there's anybody that has anything, otherwise to say, they ain't got to be there, I promise you they'll be all right. They'll be in their feelings for a little while, but you can't have them there. Because everyone has to be on board with what you desire, because it's up to you. It's not up to them at all. It's what you desire and what you're desiring to have happen. Um, and then with the provider, because a lot of women do like to go to OBGYNs. Don't go to one that'll just say, oh yeah, we'll let you try. No, we're not trying anything. We gonna act, because I've gained the knowledge, I know my rights, and this is how it's gonna go down. So you have to be very adamant in that way. I mean, that I tell y'all that way because that's how I was. That's how I was. So, you have to be very adamant um, in knowing what you want, and what you desire to have happen. Let me see. So, and I'll just say for just a closing remark, once you've gain the knowledge, and you're applying the things that you've learned, um, at the end of the day, be well with whatever happens. um, be well with whatever happens. Just stay in positivity, be encouraged, know that you know anything is possible. um, and you can be successful. You can be very successful. I have to say, I was very successful in all of my births, because really at any of those times, I could have, been taken, back again, had I been with the wrong provider, had I been with somebody who didn't want to educate me, and I didn't want to educate myself. Thankfully, I wanted to educate myself. And I sought the knowledge. And then finding out the knowledge was also within my family, because I found out my grandmother, my mama's mama, she had home births too. So, and she had a home birth midwife. So finding that out, I was all in on, yeah, birthing women, birthing babies. Yeah. So I hope that everything that was said today was well received. And there's definitely a handout with notes. Um, and I think I'm handing it back over to Yasmin. But I hope that y'all enjoyed today's talk. And I guess you can reach out to me at protectofthewomb@gmail.com, just as it sounds, y'all. Or 404-590-1718. And website is the same too, Protector of the Womb.
All right, thank you so much. That was beautiful. And I kind of wanted to highlight a few points that I felt were very powerful. The phrase journey of your VBAC. I feel like if you're taking notes, write that down for yourself to take into meditation, because it's truly a journey. And with all journeys, we cannot dictate what the outcome will be, but we can go through it understanding who we are taking the journey. So that's something that I want to bring to the table. Two pieces of spiritual advice for the divine feminine within us. A is when you're on a journey, when you're reaching a goal, in this case, our goal is VBAC. You want to always take time to empty your cup, go back to a 0 point energy where you can clear out the mental chatter to reconnect with who you are having the experience, who you are reaching the goal. And that person that you are is the shrine, the living temple of goddess, divinity in human form. So, whatever your journey looks like, I want you to extract the opportunities for growth and healing within it for you and other mothers. There's always a powerful medicine from your birth story, no matter how you birthed. So, release yourself from the judgment. The second thing was she said that she sought the knowledge. She sought knowledge of facts, medical facts, but also understanding her birthing body and its physiology. But then, in a deeper way, she sought the knowledge of her ancestral line and recovered her birthing legacy. All of us had some grandmothers, great grandmothers before us that didn't have the option of the hospital and had to birth at home. You can go into deep states of meditation, sit at your ancestral altar, and ask to be shown visions of your birthing legacy. Recover it and reclaim it powerfully. So you start off by understanding who you are and then reconnecting to the powerful birthing legacy from your bloodline. So we did have a questionnaire that was asking, what did you do specifically to let go of those previous birth experiences to protect our time frame that we're in? I'd love for you to answer that in the Facebook group or on the event page and just share from your heart, maybe some even more like mental and emotional things that you did to let go of that process. From my end, I would share that you can always transmute past experiences and traumas, and this would be considered a trauma experience. It's heavily emotional, something that you need to clear on all levels of your being. So you can use powerful declarations as commands to your own cells to release the trauma, clear, heal, transmute. You can go into deep meditation with a clearing energy. And I'll share some resources in the group later about what clearing looks like as a technique to heal. So doing clearing is a powerful way to let go and surrender. But third, I would say hypnobirthing is a powerful tool as well. So if you can get into hypnobirthing tracks, even if you're not pregnant yet, begin now programming your subconscious mind for the type of birth you will have in the future to step into it confidently and powerfully in the knowing of what you are capable of. I think the biggest thing that I've taken away from listening to Nara many times now is that she decided and she made it be so. There was no plan B in her mind. It was only plan A. And we have to do the internal work to get to that place if we're not there yet. And so we're both here to support you in getting to that place of confidence and power within yourself. Take advantage of that support. She gave her contact information. You're all in the group, so you can access that, both of us there as well with additional questions. So we can actually come off mute. I'm going to stop the recording. But if you guys want to share live,